Hello, everyone. Welcome. And my name is Shelby, for those of you that don't know me. And like I was just saying, this is the second training that I have done this year like this. And of course, it's recorded and will be uploaded on Zoom or on YouTube. So you can always go back and rewatch it. The last training I did was last Monday, and my goal is just to do these regularly once a week. And last week, I really dived into the topics of like momentum and like gaining momentum, and then capacity and celebration and like certainty within ourselves. And if you know a little bit about my story, I had a snowboarding incident I'm coming up on 3 years, sorry, in February. And I'm also overcoming a cold right now too, so I apologize for that. And lost my eye, and I was on this journey to get a prosthetic eye and navigate that whole situation. And I didn't know anything about prosthetic eyes or living with one eye, and I definitely didn't know anything about overcoming an injury like that and the recovery process. So from my own experience and the things and the tools and the journey, I've set out to, help others in that same experience. So whether you have just recently lost an eye or getting a prosthetic eye or your eye removed, or it's been a really long time, and you're still looking for those like fundamental blocks plus beyond, so my like big goal is just like encouraging a space where everybody is really growing in their self-concept, their self-power, their self-worth, no matter what you've been through, no matter your journey to this point. And today we're going to talk about insecurities. And it's not just insecurities in a sense, but like moving with insecurities, and like what really happens when we're insecure. We've lost some of our or when we're feeling insecure, what we've really happened is lost some of our own personal power. All right. Sorry, my thing's pretty delayed. It's still okay on your end. Okay. All right. I don't know why the camera's so delayed. I got a new camera. I was so excited about it, and now it's like technology. Okay. So insecurities. When I talk about insecurities, obviously I talk a lot within insecurities of like prosthetic eyes, or if you still have your eye and it's like discolored or disformed, or maybe you have a prosthetic eye that you don't like, or you had some sort of injury and you're recovering from that, and you have some insecurities around your process of your injury. So that's kind of, my foundation, but I also believe that the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So if you have other insecurities, which we all do, that's part of humans, the stuff that I'll be training and teaching on can be implemented into like any and every insecurity. So first, when we think about insecurities, we really have to be honest with ourselves and just ask ourselves, like, what are we insecure about? And often if it is something with the prosthetic eye, maybe it's just the way it looks. Maybe it doesn't, I had a lot of issues with my first prosthetic eye, like staying in its place, and it would rotate out of center, and it looked a lot very uneven and I just wasn't happy with it. And so I had to overcome a lot of insecurities with that. Or for a really long time, I just didn't even wear a prosthetic eye. And so I just had this open eye look. And so any insecurities with that. But, there's other insecurities. Like if I think all the way back to like childhood, and I was always really, really tall. And I remember being so insecure about my height. And I remember like praying at night that I like wake up, and be shorter, because I was like way taller than everybody else in school and just like towered over them. And I got made fun of for how tall I was. And I was so insecure about that. And obviously today I like love my height, and I even wear heels, and I've worked through all of that. So other insecurities though sometimes show up in like our relationships, or it can show up in like our careers and how much money we're making, or it could show up in social situations and just feeling awkward or uncomfortable in our own skin. So really, whatever your insecurity is, all of this can be applied to those. So it's just getting kind of clear on that with no shame. So I'll say that a lot throughout this training today. It's just being honest, but then letting go of the like any shame around it. And what we talk about today will kind of help release a lot of that shame, because we really can't move through that insecurity if we're feeling ashamed about it or guilty for even having it or saying it out loud. Like sometimes the insecurities we have, we don't even want to say out loud because we're afraid of being judged or ourselves judging ourselves for that insecurity. So kind of declaring, and maybe even write down, or you do some contemplating later about like, okay, what are some of my insecurities that might really be holding me back? And that's ultimately why we want to work through any insecurities, is because if we hold on to them and we're not honest with ourselves about them, ultimately they are holding us back in some way. And again, no shame. It's just knowing that. So being honest with yourself, writing it down, and then being like, okay, I know what my insecurities are. I don't have to be ashamed about them, and I can move through them in a way that's going to actually give me more power. I'm going to come out stronger on the other end, or on the other side. Like this is going to make me stronger, just identifying them, knowing them, not being ashamed about them, and then like implementing this stuff and be like, oh my gosh, this is going to make me so much stronger, so much more powerful in my own life. So identifying them without shame. And sometimes it helps to like clear up and clean up some ones from like the past, even like from childhood. Say if you grew up, with a prosthetic eye and you had a lot of insecurities around that as a child, and maybe you feel like you've really moved past that. And today you're in a place like, okay, I feel really content with my eye, but sometimes we still have to kind of just look at some of those hurtful things or some of those feelings we once had to just clean up that energy and be able to fully move forward with none of the like strings or anything holding us back. Because you'll also see sometimes past insecurities not only still kind of hold us back, but when something in our life occurs, maybe on a different in a different realm, it still kind of triggers that same response from when we were a child. So it could be like, if were insecure about your eye as a child or 10 years ago, but you feel pretty good now, but then another situation comes up in like a work environment or a relationship environment, it kind of triggers those past feelings of being bullied or like looking in the mirror and being like, I don't like the way I look. Like for me, I was like, I wish I could wake up shorter. I wish I could wake up with two eyes. I wish I could wake up with a prosthetic eye that I loved. I wish that I hadn't had to go through any of this. And so having those thoughts still ultimately hold us back and just keep us like kind of at a cap. And I believe that like our mindset, there's no cap to our mindset. It can grow and be as big, and there's no cap to mindset. There's no cap to emotional intelligence. There's no cap to personal power. There's no cap to continuing to grow in confidence and self-worth and self-value. Like there's no cap to any of that. And so the beauty of this is like just knowing where you're at and truly believing that there's no cap in any of that. And then like leaning into that and be like, okay, where else can I grow? How can I build more confidence in myself? And that's, letting go of these insecurities and moving with them at the same time too. So, and of course, if you have questions or if there's anything that's resonating with you or you want to put some hype in the chat, you're welcome to do that, or you can just listen as well too. But again, so glad that you're all on today. Thank you for taking your time out. I'm very excited to be doing this and doing these kinds of trainings with everybody in the community. Okay, so if there's really no cap to our own personal power, then we just have to look like, okay, where is, again, our personal power right now? And the reason I say personal power is because when we have an insecurity, it really is just like a limiting self-belief or that lower personal power, or it's the like a little bit of lack of confidence, lack of self-worth or self-value, and all of that's okay. Like, and it wobbles, and the goal is to like notice when it's wobbling, when you're wobbling in your self-worth or you're wobbling in your confidence, or you have it in an insecurities causing yourself to wobble in those things. It's okay. But the goal is to like catch yourself and be like, oh, okay, I'm doing this. That's okay. But how can I take my personal power back? We give our personal power to everybody all the time and everything. We give out our personal power when we post something on social media and we don't get the reactions we thought, like the likes we thought, or we get a negative response, or we give our personal power to our parents when we ask or tell them that we want a fun prosthetic eye and they don't agree with that choice. Or we give our personal power to our coworker or our boss that like says, oh, like you can't wear that eye to work because you need to be professional, or whatever. You could really insert anything in your life. And if you can, this is also really important to identify all of the times you give your personal power away to other things outside of yourself. And that's like where that insecurity hits, that's where that insecurity comes from. And it's vulnerable, and identifying and recognizing that like as humans, that's very vulnerable to put yourself out there, to maybe share your story, to express something that you want or that you need, and then not get the reaction you want or get a negative reaction. And then that's why it like takes a hit to the confidence. It builds that insecurity. It like or solidifies that insecurity. So of course, recognizing all of this too, and just really identifying like all the times throughout your day that you give your personal power away. And it could be as simply as like driving down the street and a car cuts you off and you get outraged, like you're immediately giving your energy, your power to that other car, and it could just be a stare that you get at Starbucks or the grocery store. And again, yeah, I got some road rage too. So I'm like, gotta like bring it back in, just like all of these little things where something outside of me is taking away my power. And the other part of that too is like, it's a lot to do with validation. Obviously, we want that external validation. We want people to obviously like us and care for us. And we are seeking like, okay, if I do this or say this, then this person's going to react like this. And that's what I want. And so just understanding that like the reason we give our power away is because we're seeking that external validation. And as humans, that's, how we operate a lot of the times. But it's who are we or who do we want to be so that when we do something that we really, really want to do from the heart and we're listening to that voice inside of us and we're showing up in our confidence and our courage and setting aside our insecurities, who do we need to be that when we do that thing and maybe we don't get the reaction we want or the external validation that we want, who are we still to be to like stand in that personal power and not let that be like an insecurity that, and this goes, I don't know if anyone's ever been on like a weight loss journey. So again, the same thing, it's like standing on that scale and like seeing the number and letting that number validate you, how you feel for the day. Does that number make you feel all day long like, oh, I shouldn't have ate that brownie or like, and I'm not a weight loss coach, but I'm just saying like there's so many instances I'm just trying to put into perspective of like really all of the little times and spaces throughout the day that we give away our personal power, which then is what creates our insecurities or deepens our insecurities. And so also it could be like, you get an email or a text message and you respond and maybe you don't respond the way you want to. And then you're thinking about that email or you're thinking about that text all day long and it's like ruining your day, or you say something kind of awkward at the dinner and then you're thinking about it. You can't go to bed at night, just whatever examples you can find in your own life that those little teeny things, you might not even think that they're like that big of a deal. But if it's causing you to like overthink and keep thinking about it and not be able to sleep and ruin your day, then we just have to like look at that and look how that like takes that hit on your personal power, how that creates an insecurity for you. And that's, somebody else outside of yourself is now dictating your confidence or taking control of your self-worth or your self-value, your courage, or how you show up. Let me read this. I think my problem is trying to prove my worth when really I should be proud of what I've achieved, although I'm searching for acceptance and acknowledgement and being told I'm good enough. Amazing, Mark. Thank you for putting that in the chat. I'll definitely talk on that too. That's super powerful. And that's exactly, where I'm going with all of this is, yes, we often do this as humans, that we want to prove our worth, especially when we work so hard. Or for me, it's like, okay, I've overcome this eye injury. I've like done so much, now I have to like prove to the world that I like still got it, or I have to like prove to my family that I'm like capable of this, or I just am seeking and searching for all of that outside acceptance, for all of that outside like acknowledgement, and like for people to literally tell me that I am good enough. And we're not, alone on any of this. And that's why it's like so big to not be shameful, or not let any of that shame or guilt take over. So that's like the very first step. But then we have to go inward and be like, it's from our inner parts, our inside, that like, I don't need outside worth or outside acceptance from anybody, but how do I feel about myself? Like every single morning that I open my eyes and I wake up, I don't have to prove anything to anyone. Like I am good enough every morning I wake up. I was born infinitely worthy. I can grow in like my courage and my confidence, and there's no cap to my mindset, and there's no cap to my personal power. And that feels really good, but I don't have to prove that to anybody. It's a feeling inside. And it's that feeling of like kind of being on fire, just being excited for the day and celebrating the day. And then, but the second we we have an interaction happens, or someone takes us out of our personal power, then we like fall back a bit. And that's okay. It's just recognizing that. And then we have that decision to make in that moment on all the little things. Like I can either let this situation, this comment, this negative reaction, this insecurity take me down or hold me here, or I can rise from this and be like, okay, I'm stepping back in my personal power. How do I feel about myself? I know, I feel strong and I'm worthy and I'm confident and I'm capable. I'm capable of way more than I ever could imagine, just existing, just being here. And so I get to step back into all of that for myself. Let me read this one again. I tried to constantly prove I'm just as good as everything in my one-eyed world. Oh, as in my two-eyed world. Yes, absolutely. So for those of you that, had one eye majority of two eyes majority of your life, and then all of a sudden are now at one eye, it's a huge shift on a lot of different reasons, because typically, I think on this call, it's like, you're dealing with an injury. So there's like some emotional insecurities around an injury that occur, and like the cause of the injury and what happened. Like from my personal experience, there was even shame and guilt around my injury and why that happened. And like, should I have done this, or could I have done this, or what if I had done this? So it's not only that, but now we're facing life for the rest of our life with one eye when we had two eyes. So it makes sense why we would have some insecurities around all of that. And another big piece of this is like that self-compassion part. So again, when you're identifying those insecurities, even the past ones from childhood, or the ones at the time of your injury, or the ones since your injury onward, when you really are honest and you identify those with no shame, no guilt, you also bring this self-compassion, and you say to yourself, like, this makes sense why I would feel this way. It's okay. Like my brain is trying to protect me, trying to keep me safe. That's its entire job. Like, thank you for, offering me whatever fear is probably what's coming up, or not good enough or not worthy enough, because your brain's just trying to keep you safe, like right where you're at. And so just having a lot of compassion, like, of course you'd feel this way. Of course you'd think this way. This is a lot. You've been through a lot, and like having that self-compassion and then stepping back into your personal power. Like, this does not dictate who I have to be for the rest of my life. This doesn't dictate like where I need to stay. Sorry, hold on one second. Like where I need to stay, or what my current situation doesn't like dictate the rest of my life. My own my insecurities right now do not have to dictate the rest of my life. My own personal power where I'm at right now doesn't have to even dictate the rest of my life, because I know I can grow in that personal power. I can strengthen that personal power, which then helps to eliminate those insecurities. Or when new insecurities arise, it's already, you have those tools and you're like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm feeling insecure about this. Like, that's okay. This makes sense. I got it. Maybe just identifying like why you feel insecure about it, and then being like, okay, where am I letting something outside of myself dictate how I feel? And that's really what an insecurity is. We're insecure because something outside of us is telling us we're not good enough, or don't do that. That's scary. You've never done that. Or that doesn't look good, or whatever negative comment has occurred. Or, and sometimes it's not even really occurring outside of us, but we make up a story in our head. And again, that's most likely from something that's happened in our childhood. And that's why it's important to look at that. So, our brain, our subconscious like holds all of that. And so then like something else occurs in our life, and immediately we kind of create this story or this narrative around it. And it doesn't even mean it's true. We could just be making up stuff in our head that's like holding us back, that's creating an insecurity. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Maker says, my insecurities come from the fact that I wasn't able to protect my daughter from the same trauma that I faced as a child. Yeah. So this is where it gets, really even harder, when we're like insecure about a situation with another person. So definitely a child or a significant other. A child's a big one, because that's like, obviously, like, we want to protect them and we want to give them everything. And when we're not in control of that all of the time, and we're really not in control of anything outside of ourselves. And I'll say that over and over and over again. And I think we know that, like, deep down, but we lose that a lot. So again, that's that personal power part. We're only in control of what we can control inside. We're only in control of like our thoughts, our emotions, how we want to show up. We're only in control of like the work we do in navigating like our insecurities and navigating the hard things that we've been through for ourselves. So when we're not really in control of all of the situations outside of ourselves, that's when we, take a hit on those personal power, when we try, or that insecurity, when we try to control the situation. And so first, like I said, it's identifying that and being honest, which, thank you, Mark and Dylan, for putting that in the chat. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing those, identifying them. But where can you today, again, with no shame for however you handled the situation in the past, for however the situation makes you feel today still, how can you say to yourself, like, okay, I understand, where this insecurity lies, but today I have a chance, a new opportunity to take back my personal power. Today I have a chance to change this insecurity because I know inward, like I'm so confident, I'm so worthy, I'm enough just as I am. You know, and if there's parts where you're like kind of itching to just like grow more in your capacity and in your mindset, like that is all possible. This, like, there's no cap. The sky's the limit. And so finding that deeper, like self-love for yourself, that deeper self-compassion and acceptance for like who you are today. And sometimes it's helpful if you want to do this as like a little homework assignment. And maybe I'll kind of do a little off the hip one at the end, but it would be almost like writing a letter to yourself. So like from this point moving forward, you could write a letter like, dear me, dear Shelby. And it would just be maybe all of the things that you would tell younger Shelby, or all the times that you knew that you kind of like lost your power in the past, or all the times that you've had these little insecurities or these big insecurities come up for you in the past. And then you close the letter with like, I forgive you, myself, I forgive me for all of that. I don't have to continue to live like this. I do not have to continue to let outside things dictate my self-esteem, my self-worth, my self-value. I don't have to give my personal power away to just anybody, to everybody. I know it's so easy to do, and it just happens. And that's like, when we're not aware, it happens even more. So it's like, as soon as we start to become a little bit more aware, and it's just like a one day at a time. If you also know me, I'm in recovery from alcohol. So we use the line one day at a time a lot, but it truly goes for like everything. I say that a lot for people that I'm working with, like the beginning of their eye injury, eye loss, prosthetic journey. I'm like, one day at a time, and it goes the same with here. And here's how we do one day at a time, because it's easy to just like throw that out there and say that, and then let the day go by. And you're just like, in my head spiraling, and this happened. I gave my power away here, and I feel anxious, and I'm worried about this, and I'm overthinking about this, and spiraling about this. So we gotta slow it down. I do it too. I'm only saying all of this because of personal experience. So we slow it down. And when we wake up in the morning, I really like to enjoy like a little bit of quiet time just for myself, set my day, set like a little intention. And then you kind of make a decision at that moment in the morning, like, I'm going to be in my personal power today. I'm not going to let outside people or factors or the number on the scale or money or whatever it be in your life dictate how I am going to feel today. I'm going to show up in my like best version of myself. And if I wobble, that's okay. I'm going to catch myself like the moment I wobble. If I'm getting worked up over an email, a text message, a comment, if I'm like too scared, I really want to do something new or something exciting, or I'm going to try something, but that voice turns on and it's like, no, don't do that. We're not ready for that. You can't do that. That's too scary. We're going to notice that space. And we're going to, hold a little space for ourselves, and we're going to do it anyway. And that's really where that courage builds. We got to take the courage with us, but that's where that confidence builds. And each and every time we do that throughout the day, and we're aware when we have an insecurity come up, when our personal power dips, we notice that, and we're, being really intentional with our day and the moments throughout our day. And then we notice that little point that something occurs, we can stop and be like, oh, wait, this is happening. Okay, I get two choices. I can let this hold me back, or let this insecurity fester, or make me think about it all day long. Or I can stop it and rise from this. I can become that person I want to become, or who I need to be, to not let these insecurities stop me, to not let outside factors dictate who I am and my personal power and how I want to show up and who I want to be. So it's a little steps. It's the baby steps, like each and every day, but it's that intentional living. It's just slowing down. It's noticing when you have a little dip, when you wobble a bit, and none of it's wrong. It's just noticing. And then you get that choice, and maybe you just do something a little bit differently than you do in the past. And that can be as simply as like having a new thought in your head of like, oh wait, I'm doing this. I'm letting this insecurity control my next move. I'm letting this insecurity not create the thing I want in my life. I'm letting this insecurity take away my peace of mind, my personal power. I don't have to be that person anymore. I forgave myself for all of the past things. And I get to be this person today that like holds my personal power, that doesn't let outside people tell me how good I am, because I know how good I am. And that little fire inside me that just feels really certain about who I am. And that's something else we just like continue to build on. And having that certainty about who you are, it takes recognition. And then it just takes that courage to keep leaning into it. Like knowing that you can do and you're capable of like way more than you'll ever imagine. So just go for it. Like you can take it all on. But just one day at a time, one little step or moment at a time, just noticing when you have an insecurity or when that comes up, or when you're getting really frustrated or angry, or you're losing some of your personal power. Sorry. I did not think my cold was this bad still. And then, the other big part of this is just what I was saying earlier, is like knowing what you can and cannot control. And the only thing you can control is how you feel inside. And we have to like make ourselves feel good. No one else is responsible for that. And the way we make ourselves feel good is like knowing what we like to do and what makes us feel good. So it's like having those little tools. And this is why I talked about this on a live, I think yesterday. It was like those sweet spots. So finding those sweet spots in our day that like we love to do, whether that's like I said, in the morning, having a little bit of morning quiet time. Maybe you like to journal or meditate or work out, go to yoga. And it's just like, and you could even make a list of these things too for your homework. Like, how do I have the biggest list of all the things that I just really, really enjoy, all the things that make me really, really happy, all of my like sweet spots, and just add more of those throughout your day. That self-care, that self-love. So now you're not only like doing things that you love and honoring yourself and having a really good time and doing things that feel really good for yourself. You're also noticing when insecurities come up, or when people are taking away your own personal power. And between those two things, as you start to just kind of go back and forth, acknowledging it and then adding in more of the sweet spots, before you know it, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like waking up like more confidently with more courage, like less insecurities, less fear, and just like in a happier state of mind. But knowing that like you're in control of that, and you just got to like identify what that would feel like, what really does make you happy, and then all the times that you're insecure and like why those come up, and then definitely recognizing when they're the outside things and just coming right back, call it home or inside, the inside work. So, and there's definitely like, obviously this topic could go in kind of different ways, but I wanted to just really hit on, identifying what your insecurities are. They could be around your prosthetic eye. Maybe it was as childhood or when the eye injury happened. Maybe your insecurities are more about like showing that you're good enough to work, to your family, to your spouse. Maybe insecurities come up around money or the weight on the scale. Just identifying those insecurities with no shame, but we really can't work through anything that we don't like declare and identify. And then it's like making those subtle shifts in your day of like recognizing when that occurs and you're letting something outside of yourself take away your power and come into like an insecurity for yourself. And then you'll start making those subtle shifts. Like it might just at the beginning too, it might just be like you notice that you did it, but you don't stop it. You still let it happen. You still let that person walk all over you, or you still let that person, whatever they say or whatever they do is dictates how you feel about yourself. Okay, Mark, thank you. Yeah, you can watch the rest later. We're going to wrap up here soon, but I'll send out the recording. Thanks for being here. You just at the beginning notice, okay, this person like said something and that dictated how I felt about myself. And maybe you just spend a week, or two noticing those things, but not stopping it or doing anything different. And then you get to a point after you've noticed it for, and maybe you are able to implement this right away. And today you notice things throughout your day. And by tomorrow, you're like, notice something. You're like, nope, I'm not letting that happen today. I'm not letting that happen in this moment. That's not how I feel about myself. I know I can grow in my own confidence and courage, and I'm not going to let this outside situation or person or circumstance dictate or control that. So what if I have a fear, I'm going to move through that fear. I'm going to take the fear with me, and we'll do more trainings on like fear and things like that as well too. This is just like identifying the insecurities and then identifying them throughout the day and where you give out your personal power, that awareness piece. And then slowly but surely, it'll be more than just awareness. It'll actually be like changing that thought pattern, changing the action. That's how you really know when you're there, when you've hit that sweet spot with insecurities. Somebody says something or something occurs online or something happens outside of you, which would normally make you feel insecure. But then you're not just aware of it, but then you take a different action. You still go through with it. You still say the thing. You still show up in your power. You still show up regardless of that insecurity. So when that action piece steps in, that's how you know, like, okay, I'm in my power. This is what this feels like. And this feels really good. Any questions? Drop anything? I know I said there would be no talking on this one, but we have a little extra time here at the end. So I just wanted to make sure if there was any questions. Okay. I love it. So thank you again. And like I said, this will be shared. Obviously it was recorded, so I'll share it. And then if you have any questions leading up or after this, you can always email me or reach out. If you join more of these trainings, they'll be on Monday. Thanks, iMaker. Same time. And then all the previous ones will be recorded. If you are looking for a space that would be more like discussion based and meeting the rest of the community and hanging out and being on Zoom, I have a membership program, the Afterlife Altering membership program. We meet every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, just 1 hour. And we do talk about different topics similar to this, or sometimes we have guest speakers or somebody in the membership will actually like share their story, kind of start to finish too. So there's a lot of different things we do in that space. If you are looking to take this work on a deeper level and get one-on-one support, working through your insecurities, building in your personal power, your confidence, if you're trying to like go out there and start a business or just show up in your home life, your career, your day-to-day life in a courageous, powerful way, I offer one-on-one mentorship, and so that's an option as well too. But I just really appreciate all of the support and being here. And of course, if there's certain topics that you want talked about, I'm always open to taking suggestions. I just pull things that I hear from the community, and then I, implement what has really worked for me in my experience and stuff that I do with my one-on-one clients as well too. So I just, gather everything I hear from the community and then share it here. So, but I'm always open to more specific topics or other topics too. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye, everyone. We'll be in touch, and yeah, definitely see you in my world again. Bye.